So with Loki coming to a close, I thought it'd be a perfect time to stop and rank all 3 of the Marvel Disney Plus shows we have so far. That being WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. From the worst to the best. Now before you give my thoughts, let me know your guys' ranking down in the comments below. Which one of these shows do you love? Which one of these shows do you hate? Which one is more in the middle? Love to know all your thoughts down in the comments below. So without further ado, let's get into it. So coming in last place, I have Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now this is not a bad show by any means of the imagination. This show has some really great moments, especially episode 3 and 4. Episode 3 and 4 have great character moments, great Sam and Bucky moments, amazing action sequences, complex characters, and just the storylines that felt the most complex, fleshed out, and the most interesting. It's just the rest of the show is just kind of boring. I think that's the biggest problem with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When it has great episodes, there is great episodes, and episode 3 and 4 are probably some of the best things we've gotten in the MCU, period. But the rest of the episodes are just kind of mediocre. Episode 5 is definitely the worst episode. It feels the most uninteresting. There's some good moments in that episode, some Sam and Bucky moments, but there's a moment where they're just tossing around the shield, talking about its legacy that just felt really weird and stilted, and some of the dialogue in the show just doesn't feel right. And also, why I do enjoy Sam becoming the new Captain America, and I love the politics and the race that surrounds that. I thought that was extremely interesting, and the more deep politics stuff that this show dives into is extremely interesting. I just thought that last episode wasn't the most fulfilling climax in the world, and Sam's speech at the end is not bad. It thinks it's more epic and bombastic and just very cheerfuling and just very awe-inspiring than it actually is.
We can't demand that people step up and we don't meet them halfway.
The show just has this weird tone to it. There'll be some funny, lighthearted MCU stuff that is probably the most least interesting thing in the entire show, and then it'll have a much more serious and more political tone to it, which is the most interesting stuff in the show. But the show tends to go with the first one more than it does with the second one, and I wish this film would have gone more with the political side, because that's easily the most unique thing about this show. Is the more political side, is the more mature side. The show also tonally is inconsistent. It will have some really messed up stuff, but then also a MCU joke, and that goes through pretty much a lot of MCU property. They just don't really know how to balance humor and the more serious stuff, and I think this show is the worst case of it. I know it sounds like I'm bashing this show. Episode 3 and 4 are great. Sam and Bucky have great chemistry. There's some fun sequences, but overall this show is just pretty lackluster in a lot of moments. Coming in second place is WandaVision. Now the only reason why this isn't in last place is I was actually really surprised how much I enjoyed the show for the first maybe 4 episodes. For the first 4 episodes, especially episode 1 and 2, and it's the 50s and 60s sitcom episodes that I rewatched the most, and those are those episodes that I actually watched most, and it sucks. The mystery that this builds, and what's going on, and is Wanda responsible for this thing, and like what's happening, and then the finale hits, and it is literally completely ruins what the entire show was building towards. It was just a typical MCU finale, and it just didn't really work, and I think that's the biggest problem. The show is really unique, fun, quirky, and extremely enjoyable. Episode 1 and 2 especially. When I first started watching the show and I watched episode 1, I'm just like, this is going to be a great show. Watched episode 2, I'm said, this is some of the best MCU stuff ever. Watched episode 3, I'm like, okay, it's still good. Episode 4, okay. And then I got further and further and further into the very last episode, and it's like, oh, this went from some of the best MCU to some of the more mediocre MCU, and it sucks. This show has great, iconic moments in the entire MCU. Great performances, great chemistry between Wanda and Vision, no pun intended. This show has great stuff. It's a risky, ballsy, very unique take on what people thought this show was going to be, and in my opinion, the show is better than what I thought it was going to be. It started off unique and different, and then it kind of fell towards to what I thought this show was going to be, and that's just typical MCU action and explosions and visual effects and just an ending that's not satisfying. And spoilers for WandaVision. If you don't want the show to be spoiled, just skip to the next part of the video. When Vision dies for the third time or something like this, or the second time, it'll be the third time because the time got reversed. For the third time, I'm just like, oh, well, I feel something, and the impact was just non-existent. I loved the questions that the show was asking, but once we got the answers, this show sadly just started to fall apart. But coming in first place, I have Loki. I'm not going to talk about the show much because I literally just gave a review. In fact, if you want to know all my reviews for these 3 shows, I'll leave a link down in the description box below for you guys to check out those reviews. But seriously, I really enjoyed this show. The mystery of it, the fun sci-fi thing that was going on, the characters. I loved Tom Hiddleston's performances. I really liked Sylvie. I just enjoyed the show. Episode 5 was probably my favorite episode, but I loved episode 1 and 2 as well. The show was on to a great start and a great continuation. It was going to have a great finale, and then the finale came, and it was actually really, really, really disappointing. And I've said this in my review, and my problem is that it's not just a lot of talking. That is not my problem with Loki. My problem with the finale is it's really uninteresting. The things that they're talking about is just really unengaging, uninteresting, and just really strange and awkward. The performances felt strange and awkward. The direction was not as crazy or unique as it once was. The show kind of lost its touch. It kind of lost its flavor. It kind of lost what made this show so freaking good in the first place. Episode 6 really lays it down. But episode 1 through 5 is really great. I even enjoyed episode 3. I know a lot of people thought episode 3 was kind of a stinker. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for season 2, and hopefully they improve of what didn't work in that finale. That was my ranking of all 3 MCU shows this far. What do you think of this? I'll let you know all your thoughts down in the comments below. Please let me know your guys' ranking down below. And if you want to know my more in-depth thoughts on all 3 of these shows, I'll leave a link down in the description box below for my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And as always, keep talking movies.